Hello folks, welcome back to the Metal Mill 52 workshop. My name is Bill, this is my shop. The project we're working on now is building an LBSC Tich locomotive. There is the boiler for it. You can get an idea how small it is by the size of that Sharpie marker. In this week's episode we'll talk about how I modified a Blackgates Engineering water sight gauge to fit the existing boiler fitting here on the bottom, and also how I made a custom fitting on the top. What I did was use some of these beautiful street L castings available from the California Locomotive Company, and you can find them online, and it's just beautiful castings, and it seemed to work very well. It was a bit of a challenge getting the silver solder done there, so I'll cover that in the episode, and also show you how to make a little jig for machining these things. So I hope that's interesting to you. As you can see over here, I've got a piece of the glass, an extended length that I'll cut to fit. For now I'm just using a steel rod in there to make sure I've got everything lined up perfectly. But as always, if you have any questions, please ask. I'll do my best to answer. If you don't have any questions but you'd like to encourage me, please do give me a thumbs up. I do get motivation from that, and I do appreciate it. So stay tuned. This should be about a 25-minute or so video. I hope you all enjoy it. I hope it's useful to you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, everybody. And one of the things that I need to do, obviously, for the Tich is a water sight glass, and this is the one that I ordered from Blackgates. I was starting to take it apart, and like an idiot, I forgot that I was holding it by the glass, and sadly I broke it. But I did take out this part. I corrected my mistake, so I'll be throwing away that part of the glass and replacing it. Luckily, I ordered an extra section of glass. The whole point, the reason I was taking it apart is probably going to remake this fitting here to match the boiler on the locomotive, but more on that later. I've got a plan to use these beautiful little elbows for the Tich locomotive, and I don't have a fixture to hold them to do the machining on them. They're really clean. I really probably don't need to make this, but things are always a little bit better when you have a fixture and you're certain that you're holding it properly, holding apart properly. And what I mean is, this is a very nice, beautiful, smooth casting. If I just clamped it in the vise and started to machine, especially to thread this portion here, this tapered portion, it's possible, not likely maybe, but it's possible that the thing could get wiggled like that and screw up. I don't want to ruin the part. So long story short, I'm going to make a little clamping device, a little jig for it, lay these things out. I'm probably going to go about 1 inch by 2 inch. So I need two pieces. This is 1/4 inch thick aluminum. I'm going to lay it out and cut them out, and then I'll show you all I have to do to machine it to put it together. Okay, here we have the aluminum laid out, little scribe lines. I can cut it out on the bandsaw. Here I've glued the halves together and kind of laid out where I'm going to put my screws. Here I've drilled and tapped and countersunk, most importantly, the two pieces of aluminum. They're still crazy glued together, but I always put it this way. Now I'll mill the sides square, which will be very important for having it as a jig for forming those parts. My buddy Fred had a great idea about adjusting to the situation, that is making an adapter, basically a nipple that will fit into the existing threaded bushing in the bottom of the boiler for the water gauge. So that size is 7/32 40. So that's what I've done here. I've just taken a piece of 1/4 inch, turned it down to 219 thou. I threaded the outside 7/32 40. Then I drilled center drilled a number 44 passageway hole through the bottom. And now I'm getting ready to part that off, and then I'll be able to use this to mate to silver solder into the base. I'll show you that. And before I place it in the lathe, this is the bottom part for the bottom valve, basically, for the Blackgates Engineering water gauge. And this part that I'm tapping here on the end with my finger, that's threaded 3/16 inch 40. Sadly, they did not make any that are 7/32 40. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, I stripped this off. I soaked it in spirits first to see if perhaps this was made as two pieces that I could melt out the little nipple here, but I think it's one piece. So I'm going to chuck it. I already pre-flighted. I think I can safely chuck it in the 3-jaw and not hurt these two fittings on the side, and then cut off the little 3/16" 40 nipple, and then drill and tap just a short ways in, about 150 thou in, with the 7/32 40. Then I can use that nipple that I just made and silver solder that in place, and it'll fit the lower bushing of my boiler. Just want to grab a shot of me using the center in the tailstock to center up the fitting before I snugged it up, and I just gently snug that up. I don't want to collapse that fitting at the bottom there. Did carefully face it off because this face is the actual sealing part, so faced it off nice and clean there. Here I wanted to show I use a modified drill, modified for brass, with the flattened lands there. You can see the shiny silver part at the top there. And so far, that was a 3/16" hole, so I made it 3/16" by 150 thou deep. Now I'll hit it with a number 10 drill, same distance deep, and then tap. Just using the tailstock. Measure the depth there. My friend Russ gave me a very cool digital thing. I need to set that up, but anyway, there's the number 10 drill, 150 thou deep, so it's all ready to tap. Okay, I just finished tapping it 150 thou deep, 7/32 40. It's still got tape. My tap has still got tape wrapped around it from last time I did this, made something with it. So you can see my little setup here. Got the taps, little tap holder inside a larger diameter cylinder that works on my same set of gear that I use for my threading dies. Similar, I should say, the arbor is, the tailstock. And there's the tap. And let's see if we can get you a picture of inside there. Not much to see. Well, not very good camera work either. Let's zoom in here. I need to clean it out with some WD-40 and then some acetone to get it ready to silver solder. Okay, here's the nipple we just made, threaded in there. I don't know if you can see in there, but it's clear. I shot it through with WD-40 and ran a pipe cleaner through there. Let me just unscrew that and I'll show you. So the plan is to silver solder that all together, so it'll be like one, and then this will fit the bottom of the boiler. And here's a lot better picture of the inside of the fitting with the new tapping in it. And so when I put this in, silver solder it in, then I'll clean everything up. I'll chase these threads and I'll paint the bottom black again. And I was careful, one thing I point out, I was careful not to go so deep in here in case you're wondering, because there's the valve seat is on the other side. So definitely didn't want to disturb any of that. Once the jig is made, then the next thing to do is to carefully measure the pieces and come up with a plan. And you can kind of see what have done here. Basically just drill in from the top and from the sides. The sides that are flanged, there's a couple different sizes. So I just measured them and measured the distance, how far I'd need to drill in, and it just makes a little pattern for them. The key is, though, that once it's made, for me at least, the way I like to make them, it's too snug of a fit. So I go through a process. It only takes a few minutes, but I put one of these grinding spurs in my Dremel, and then I ease out just a few thou at a time. I'll take off a little bit to open it up so that it fits well. So let me show you. Let me flip this around and put it together. I just finished. It's really nice fit there, as you can see, nice and flush on the sides, and the pieces are held in there very sturdy. And the whole point there, you know, you can machine them with confidence now. You can drill and tap them, do whatever you need to do. So I'm really happy how these came out. I'm going to screw them together, and we'll get ready to machine them the next time around. Here's the completed, redone water gauge, and there's the original wrapper that came from Blackgate's, and so you can see the much larger bottom section here. Let me put it over there so there's a little less glare. I painted it black after it was pickled, and I put the pieces back together. That's not a piece of glass tube, that's just a piece of stainless steel in there, just kind of as a placeholder. But I'm pretty pleased with how that all came together, and can't wait to use it. Let me show you, hold it up to the locomotive, show you what it'll look like. There's the approximate configuration, and as you can see, I have to make something for the top part there, and that's what I was thinking about, using a little street L or elbow that I got from California Locomotive Works. So I'll show you that as we go along here. One thing I love about having the little jig there is the accurate drilling and tapping. So what I've done here, I've got it in position. This is the small 3/16 inch side, and I've just drilled it out with a number 20 drill and tapped it with a 3/16 inch 40, so that can accept the Blackgate's version, the upper connection for the water gauge. So now I can flip this over and thread the elbow, the street L portion, 3/16 inch 40 model taper. I use straight thread here because that's what the Blackgate's fitting has. Alright, here we are putting the taper, 3/16 inch by 40 model taper pipe thread on the bottom, the small L there, and this is the part I'm looking at threading into and then silver soldering onto the boiler. Let me disconnect everything and show you. What I've got is my tailstock die holder in a 9/16 inch, or in a, just sliding on a rod, and using my DRO here to fix the exact position. That's another nice thing about the jig. You know you're in the exact right position for operations like this. So I'll pull it apart and show you what we got. There's the finished assembly. This is, you can see I've got the model taper, model engineer taper, and 3/16 inch 40. Worked out perfectly. Take it apart and let's see what we got. Let me show this before I take it apart. As you can see, I marked the dimensions where these centers are so that I can put this put blanks in here and put it in the mill and use the DRO to get the exact right spot there. I just used my little Dremel engraving tool. It worked great on soft materials like this aluminum. So I wanted a little spiff for you there. Really excited about how that came out. It's looking good. Let's take it apart and see. Okay, there's the 1/4 inch one that's not machined yet. Here's the 3/16 that we did machine tonight. Looking good. Really excited about how that came out. Cleaned it out with a little pipe cleaner. Let's do a little show and tell on the locomotive. Okay, I think this would look a lot better in the daylight, but one of the issues with the Tich is that with the bushing here in the back head of the boiler, the fixture, the fitting for the top of the water sight glass, it's either got to come over the edge or you have to have the top part longer. Well, the Blackgate's, of course, is the same. These two flanges are on the same plane, this one and this one down here. So as you can see, what I've got is the little street L in there, and my idea is that I could have the lower setting in here in that bottom bushing and then use the street L. So let me get it on, see if I can get it on the plane. I'll probably have to rearrange my hands like this. But yeah, see this? I've got the bottom one on that plane. The top one, the bushing can be in there a little ways, and the nice thing about that street L is that it will give you the reach, if you will, to the top portion. I think that's going to work. I'll do a better job mocking that up, but that's why I was thinking about using this. And then, as Fred pointed out, when I do the top part, I'm going to need to go in at an angle like this, and of course this part can be down, and then I could tap that in, screw it into the right fitting area, and then silver solder the upper fitting. Didn't get much done tonight other than to mock up the idea I have for the street L. I'm just moving around here to take it in various angles, get an idea about where I have to drill the hole. So my idea is to drill and tap a 3/16 inch 40 model taper hole there, and then I can obviously screw it in a ways, at least about halfway, till the spout is oriented in that direction, and I can connect the top part of the Black Gates water gauge to it. Obviously needed to take in the angles and the offset and so forth like that, but I think it'll be pretty good. I mean, I think that accomplishes the offset needed for the face. I have some spacers in here. I needed to use some little copper washers that I got from Black Gates to give me a nice snug fit down there. Probably have to use some up top here too, because these are straight threads, and the sealing part is the flat surface there. I think that'll work. Pretty happy about how that looks. I'm gonna let that just leave that be, come back and look at it again tomorrow. You know, even if the geometry changes a little bit when I drill and tap it, you know, the sight glass, the gauge would move a little bit, but not significantly. Okay, not a very fancy setup, but this is pretty much what I had in mind. I've got the boiler basically just blocked inside the vise. It's not clamped in any way, shape, or form. I've got a nice aluminum block to support it under here, and then a Teflon block and some wood wedges to get it to the right height. And for my alignment for the vertical, as you can see, there's my little mark there, and I've got a 1/16 inch drill bit in the bridge port here, and that's the mark, that's the angle. So I think the angle is good. Now my next step, as you can see, I've carefully marked where I want the hole to be. I'll just use a wiggler and come over here, and then I'm going to drill a couple of preliminary holes because the number 23 drill is pretty large. That's the drill here, which is the tapping size drill for the model taper 3/16 inch 40. So I'll drill a tiny little pilot, or center drill, tiny little pilot hole like 1/16 inch, and then I've gotten one of my modified drills, my brass drills that have the lip not cut off, but filed down. I'll use that to make almost the correct size, and then I'll make the final size with the number 23, and then we'll tap it. Okay, the drilling went really well, no problem there. Glad I did use the blunted copper drill to do a pilot, but I've got the tap in there. It's about halfway now, so I wanted to I've just disconnected it from the bridge port. I was tapping it using the bridge port, keeping the alignment with the transmission in neutral. Now I'll just move the assembly closer to me and put a little tap wrench on so I can finish tapping it by hand, so I can feel every little detail of it. And I don't need to go in too much farther. 10 turns total is what they say. Okay, I just finished tapping it, put in another turn, and have test fit the fitting inside there. And I like what I see. I might just stick that in one more turn down before I go to silver solder it, but pretty happy with how that looks. So far so good. I'll bring you back when it's silver soldered. Okay, I have a new idea for supporting the upper sight gauge fitting here. I reread the book, and something that LBSC talks about is using copper rod for the small bushings. So I've got some 3/8 inch copper rod here, and I have some smaller stuff too, but I'm thinking the 3/8 would be about the perfect size just to make a little round bushing, sort of a button that would be a ring that fits, that the center of this fitting can go through. Just have it hollowed out enough so that that's a nice snug fit that I could silver solder the fitting to the bushing, and then hopefully, being copper and copper, maybe I'll have better luck soldering that, silver soldering the bushing to the boiler. So tonight's project is just to make a little bushing. Alright, there's a little copper bushing that I made, and I just made it so that the tail of the L can pass all the way through, and here it is tightened down. So this will be fine. It'll be a little quarter turn of space there that hopefully I can silver solder the unit to the boiler, but we'll see. So I think what I'm going to do is try to silver solder the L and the copper bushing together tonight, and then tomorrow maybe I can try the boiler again. Okay, here's the new silver soldered together fitting, and one nice thing I learned just now is the silver solder absolutely sticks to the bronze, the silicone bronze. I was worried that maybe that was the problem. You can see I probably used a little too much silver solder, but I'll put it in the pickle, I'll clean it up and buff it up, and then we'll test fit it again in just a few minutes, see what it looks like. Well, I hope tomorrow night goes as well as tonight did. So there's the test fit. You can see there's a little gap there. I've got it screwed in just so it's just snug right there in the perfect orientation. So my game plan is take it apart tomorrow. I'll take the boiler off the chassis. You can see I've got it all sitting here together on the chassis. Take it off, put it in the, before I do that, put some flux down and get everything perfectly aligned. Then take everything apart, take it off the chassis and put it over here. I'll rig up some kind of thing with my fire bricks to get a little better insulation, and I may use my other torch. I've got a larger propane torch because I think that was another part of my problem, was not enough heat. So we'll see how the next phase goes. Alright, I'm preparing what I hope is the final solution for silver soldering the upper fitting on there. As you can see, I've got plenty of flux applied. I also have the upper and lower fittings in place, and I put it's a steel rod, but it's 5/32 of an inch. It's the same size as the glass tubing will be, so I put that in place to make sure I had the geometry lined up. Alright, that seemed to go surprisingly well that time. Maybe the copper made all the difference, or I used I've got a big turbo torch here, which provides a little bit more force and flame than just the little miniature propane handyman soldering jobs there. So not the neatest soldering job in the world, that's for sure, but I'm going to let it cool, and then we'll pickle it and clean it up and see what it looks like when it's all said and done. Alright folks, I think I'm going to declare mission accomplished on this. We can, I'll make this the last segment of this video, and I hope you all have a great week. What I've done, I have a extra long glass tube in there. I just put it in and marked it with the Sharpie, and when I get a proper glass cutter, I will cut that and I will have a finished assembly that I can use. So thanks. I hope everybody has a great week, and I hope this has been an informative segment for you.